Hi everybody, welcome to week 12. We just want to say how much we love you. We're sitting here in our home together earlier than we expected after a deployment and having coffee, and we're just thinking of you and thinking of how wonderful it would be if we were sitting across the table having coffee with you. And we feel like we've done that in Enliven along the way. And so thank you for joining us and doing this with us. And we hope that your marriage is changing and growing and it's becoming better.
This is a Sunday afternoon for us, and oddly enough, this is what we choose to do and love to do, which is to hopefully inspire you to breathe life into your marriage, to help you change your family tree, to help you change the past way of you, that you've done marriage, that you've done life, and to give you some hope for the future and to give you some tools to do that. And one of the ways we want to do that through Enliven, and the reason we split these up is to give you an opportunity to continually take things deeper. I remember we were sitting at, where was it? It's the bookstore. It was Barnes & Noble? Yeah, I always get, one of those is out of, Borders is out of business, Barnes & Noble is still around. Nothing against Borders. We were a great bookstore while you were there, if you're still around. Anyway, you're not in our town, so we don't know. So I'll stop all that and say that a lot of this stuff just kind of began to free flow as we began to talk and say, what would we choose to talk about? If we could sit down a young couple and say, here are the things we think you need to be tracking on, paying attention to. Here's what we have noticed that's affected our marriage. But we also knew that a couple of stops along the way, we'd need to do a check-in. And the way that I couch that when I talk about it in marriage retreats is doing an azimuth check. Now, I'll explain something to you. If you've never been a hiker, if you've only ever used GPS in order to get around to somewhere, you've probably never seen one of these. Now, this is what's known as a lensatic compass. I have the blessing to have my grandfather's that he used in World War II. And the way that you use this compass is that you set it up as such. Here's a little hairpin or a hair thread right there of metal. Here's a little eye hole right here. And here's the actual compass, and here's a little thumb holder right there. So you can also use it to attach it to things. But what you would do is you'd actually kind of laze a little direction. So if I'm sitting here looking at this right now, I'm actually looking at about 50 degrees, okay? And so I know that if I want to go in that direction continually, I'll keep this at 50 degrees, and then I'll keep walking in an exact straight line. Now, first thing, if you don't know where you're going, how will you ever know if you get there? So part of marriage is having a goal, having a mission statement, having an idea out there waiting for you that you want to arrive at. And the other part is going, how do I actually get there? What's the path? What's the direction that I take in order to get to awesomeness in marriage? Now, we're not saying ours is the only path. We're actually trying to include many different resources that we've used over the course of 14 years now. And week 12 is about a checkup, and it's about an azimuth check. It's about looking down at that compass and going, yeah, we are walking in the right direction, or no, we need to change just a little bit. And here's where it really pays off. If I'm using this compass, there's 360 degrees because there's 360 degrees in a circle. If you're off by a couple of degrees, it's not going to matter in a mile or two. You could still see where your possible destination would have been. But if you keep going for 10 miles, 2 degrees, 5 degrees, it matters a lot. Now, it's a small slice of pie on the face of this compass, but in your life, it's a huge change. So you have to continually check up with one another, check up within yourself, and for those of you spiritually inclined, check up with God and go, where am I at? Do an inventory. Look back over these 12 weeks and gauge the decisions you were making, the changes you wanted to make, and ask yourself, am I doing those things? How am I doing? Okay?
So this week, when we're doing the checkup for week 12, this is what you can expect. When we look back over phase one, what was phase one all about? Well, it was about three things. One, it was about creating some self-awareness. It was, what is going on in my life? What is going on in my spouse's life? And what's going on in our marriage? What is the current state of our marriage? So we looked at, how are you guys doing in nutrition? Are you guys talking about how you handle stress, how you handle anxiety? We also brought up a lot of topics that we see that are unaddressed often in marriage. So that's why we did dive into things like nutrition and anxiety and what you do to escape. So we looked at a lot of topics that a lot of marriage studies wouldn't look into. And we also introduced some communication techniques that we think were a little bit different than normal. Although we did give you some communication pointers, we introduced a lot of ideas. So we introduced the idea of lock the door, so that when you feel like you just want to run away, or this is just not working, or that you're just going through a really rough patch, that you can remember, hey, I've locked the door on my marriage. I believe in my marriage. I want my marriage to last, and I am protecting us, and I'm protecting what this is about. And so we're going to lock the door on that. We also talked about what it means to battle for your spouse, that each of us have things that we're internally battling, sometimes even on a daily basis, and that it's not so much that that person is what it is that they're struggling. So that if they're dealing with addiction, they're not somebody who is an addiction, or they're struggling with addiction, or if they're dealing with anger, it's not that they're an angry person, that they're struggling with anger. And so how can I step into the world of my spouse and help them battle that we are doing this as a team, and that those things that are coming against us and that are wanting to drive a wedge between the two of us, that we can battle that together, and that we can save and work on our marriage together.
So take time this week to do a checkup, to do an inventory on what the last 12 weeks have been. Sit down and talk about it with your spouse. And if you need week 12 to take up 2 weeks, it's perfectly all right. You need to go at your speed and at your pace. We're just offering these things up to you as you want to engage the topics. So take out your personal mental compass and go through week 12 and make sure you do a good azimuth check and make sure you're still on track. All right? Thanks, everybody.